Hi, welcome to today's webinar from Scribe Software. Today's topic is Achieve a Fully Integrated Salesforce Using iPaaS. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nathan Richard, who is a key part of our Salesforce team here at Scribe Software. And Nate, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and then take us through the agenda?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. My name is Nathan Richard. I've been at Scribe Software for about 3 years now. I'm on our Salesforce dedicated team. I specifically focus on working with our Salesforce end users and our Salesforce partners as well. And so today, really happy to be here. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview, and then we'll talk about the state of data integration. And with the state of data integration, there's certain integration challenges that come up. So we're going to touch upon those, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Salesforce platform. So Salesforce, they give off a certain brand and a certain message. So we're going to talk about the perception of the Salesforce platform versus what we actually see in reality in actual customers' environments. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a few approaches to integration. Those approaches are native integration, custom code, traditional ETL, or this thing that we call iPaaS. Then we're going to walk through a few different customer stories, and then we'll wrap up the presentation after that and answer any questions. So you're probably on this webinar because you know that integrating Salesforce is essential to your organization's success. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So just the other day, I'll give you an example of why integration is so critical to an organization's success as well. In the age of the customer experience is so important. So the other day, I was having some internet issues. So I called my internet service provider. I talked to one support rep that was trying to walk me through a few different things, and ultimately, I provided them with a bunch of information, and then they found out that they couldn't help me. They weren't able to troubleshoot the issue that I had appropriately. So when that happened, they had to transfer me over to a different support rep. And when they transferred me, somehow all the information that I just shared with that first rep didn't get passed along. So as a customer, I was pretty disappointed that I just spent 10 minutes walking this support rep. Even though it was only 10 minutes, I just spent 10 minutes that I could have used doing something else. I gave them all the information, and they should have been able to pass that. As a customer, I thought they should have been able to pass that information over to the next support rep. And really, as a customer, I was just aggravated and disappointed and that information didn't get passed, and I felt like I wasted time. So the answer to that frustration is integration and data visibility. Custom code, middleware, and iPaaS solutions are all options for that, but how do you decide which option is best for you, and what should your decision criteria look like? And then lastly, today we're going to talk about Scribe's approach to integration and how Scribe allows users of all skill sets, whether that's a developer or if that's a business analyst or a marketing technologist. We're going to talk about how we allow all users to create, deploy, and maintain integrations across cloud and hybrid applications. So let's talk a little bit about the state of data integration. Right now, we're in the age of cloud apps, and with that brings an ever-expanding ecosystem. Just the other day, I found a stat that the average organization uses 13 cloud applications. Now, you're probably listening to this and say, well, that seems high, but if you start to break it down, all of the different parts of the business are using cloud applications. You know, you have things like Office 365, Google Gmail, different event scheduling solutions, and then on top of that, you have all of your business systems that are running in the cloud. So you can easily see how there's 13, the average organization has 13 cloud applications. We also find that data is the biggest barrier to customer visibility. And the reason that is it's actually hard to consolidate data across systems, and the quality is inconsistent. So you bring on these cloud systems and you think that data is just going to be magically in the different disparate systems that you bring on. But what you find is that it's really hard to see the customer interaction and share that between those systems. In this era, we also find that everyone is their own CTO. What that means is you have different departmental VPs or directors making their own decisions about technology. A lot of companies, they still have CTO dedicated roles, as they should, except these department leaders can make their own technology decisions, and then they make those decisions without having a defined integration strategy. So with the cloud, people assume that everything is going to be easy and simple. And the reason that is it's so easy to buy a cloud application and spin up something in the cloud. You don't have to have any big on-premise system anymore. So all you need is really a credit card and a phone number to call, and or a web form to use, and you can go and place an order for a cloud application. Just the other day, my VP was joking about bringing on this new application that is somehow going to increase sales by 40%, except there's no way to integrate it into our internal Salesforce. So with no integration, it's ultimately useless. So then after people bring on this new application with no integration strategy, they then pass it over to IT, and then IT kind of has to just make it work. And so a lot of these integrations are dealt with opportunistically, and already IT resources are limited. I've never heard someone say that their company has too much IT and they have too many IT resources. So now that we kind of understand the state of integration, let's talk about the Salesforce.com platform a little bit and the message that Salesforce tells everybody. So Salesforce is great. On the Force.com, there's so many great applications and so many great tools that you can use in just about every area of your business. So what you have is Salesforce has these sales apps, they have these service apps, they have marketing apps, they have community apps, they have something for analytics, and they also have an app development platform all on Force.com. And at a glance, all of these seem to be integrated really tightly. However, in reality, the Salesforce.com platform, while it's very strong, it's actually a little bit more flat, and that's because every application has its own specialty, right? And so everything is going to require some degree of integration orchestration. And what I mean by integration orchestration is this is the logic that you have to think about when you go and build an integration. So even if you have Sales and Service Cloud, for instance, do you want your Service Cloud people having access to all of the information that Sales Cloud has, and vice versa? Because you don't want to take away productivity. At the same time, you want to give the reps access to the information that they need to efficiently do their job well and have that optimal customer experience that we've been talking about. So in reality, it's a little bit more flat because it still requires a degree of integration or orchestration. So now you're probably saying, well, my environment didn't even look like that because not every app I use is on Force.com. So your environment probably looks a little bit more like this, where you have your different marketing, your different service, sales, and reporting apps, and there's probably some other categories that I even missed out in this slide that your organization has. And the reason for that is you should be able to choose the best of breed technology for the job that you're trying to accomplish without having to worry about integration. And with that said, you still need the right data in the right system, so in this, you get this outside layer of the integration orchestration that we talked about. So how should you approach integration, and what are some ways to do it? A few legacy approaches, before we start to talk about iPaaS, we'll cover some legacy approaches, and those are things like native integrations. So a native integration is just that out-of-the-box integration. So you buy a cloud application, and you say, I need it to talk to this other thing that I have. And so this is really pre-built, and it's very simple to set up, which is awesome, but generally it's limited in scope. Can it work with custom fields? Can it work with custom objects? Can it work for this other weird use case that is only, that only my business has? You can also do something like custom code. Now, custom code, that might look like a great approach because really you can do anything with custom code. You just have to code it. So the biggest challenge that we see with custom code is that people have limited access to development resources, and every code is different, but it's hard to maintain. And we'll get into that a little bit more. A third approach is traditional ETL or middleware. So we're starting to get to something more like what we call iPaaS, but what traditional ETL and middleware is, it's a heavyweight on-premise system, and it can bring these different applications together, but oftentimes there's a big learning curve and it requires advanced skill sets to do it, not to mention the infrastructure it takes to provide for that application to run on. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some other things that we're seeing and some facts on maybe why those legacy approaches aren't the best way to approach cloud-based data integration. There was a survey done about a year ago that found 61% of executives are dissatisfied with their cloud integration initiatives. So someone brings on a cloud application, and then we find that 61% of executives are actually dissatisfied with that cloud integration. We recently also did a survey of our own internal customers, and what we found is that 90% of CRM implementations use custom fields and custom objects. The reason that is CRM systems today, like Salesforce, they're so easy to customize and do unique things. As a salesperson, I actually was able to spin up a trial just the other day, and I could understand how to build out new custom fields and custom objects. The last stat that I just want to run through real quick is, with a custom-coded integration, about 92% of the actual total cost of ownership comes after you deploy the integration. So after you spend all that time and money and resources building out that custom-coded integration, you're still not even there. 90% of the costs are yet to come. And the reason for that is it's really in the maintenance costs. So in businesses today, everything, and especially with the cloud, everything's changing, everything has to be agile, and custom code really isn't that. It's heavy, someone else coded it, what happens when developers leave, and that's why the TCO for custom code integration is so high. Now, when you're thinking about an integration solution and thinking about how you should go about integration, there's a few challenges that people often run into. With integration, typically there's a long time to deploy. Whenever I've seen partners and customers start to think about an integration that they want, it sounds easy at that first conversation, but as time goes on, everything starts to creep. More endpoints get added, and you want more fields integrated. We also find that integration today, it's pretty static because these systems are so difficult and APIs are difficult. It's hard to understand. So when you're thinking about an approach to integration, how can you create an agile integration that changes over time and is easy to manage? We also find that integration today it's pretty fragile. Endpoint APIs change on a regular basis. I mean, most cloud applications update their API on a quarterly basis, and they might not have any guarantee to their customer that that API change isn't going to break an integration that they currently have hard coded. And there's certain boundaries too with integration. They're as good as they can be, but they're not always what a customer wants. So when you're thinking about an approach to integration, how can you deliver to the business, and how can you continue to build out on that integration over time and scale it? So the solution that we're presenting today is something that we call iPaaS, or Integration Platform as a Service. So at a high level, Integration Platform as a Service, it's integration in the cloud, it's a subscription-based model, it supports hybrid environments, so you can connect to cloud and on-premise applications. There's also distributed processing. What that really means is, as your integration requires more resources, you can automatically spin up more resources in the cloud. There's also things like build your own connector, and you can do all of this control and monitoring work via API access rather than having something on-premise. So what does iPaaS do for a business? Well, really, it lowers the barrier to entry for integration. So this is where we start to talk about the ease of use of integration platforms. So it allows non-developers to point-and-click integration solutions. Just the other day, I was talking to someone in marketing, and they had a marketing application that they wanted to talk to Salesforce, and they had limited IT resources, so they called us up, and now that marketing person is able to build an integration between their marketing application to run email campaigns as well as their Salesforce. We also say iPaaS allows for bimodal integration agility, and what that means is there's so many connectivity options with iPaaS that you can not only connect your applications today, but any applications that you bring on in the future, you can connect to those as well. And ultimately, because this is in the cloud, it reduces your overall capital expenditure for integration. You have one subscription that you can use to manage all of your integrations throughout the entire life cycle. So one customer story that I would like to talk to is with the Rainforest Alliance. So the Rainforest Alliance, they had this challenge of supply chain traceability and reporting. So the Rainforest Alliance, you've probably seen it, but it's a seal that can be found on hundreds of sustainably produced consumer goods, including coffee, tea, cocoa, paper products, and many other products out there. What this seal does is it informs consumers that a given product meets certain eco-friendly guidelines, and it provides those farmers and foresters a marketing boost because they're now they're certified that their products are ethically sourced. So they had a supply chain challenge. They needed to better track these suppliers and the way their resources were sourced. Currently, or in the past, they had manually, all the data they were entering was done manually, and it was ultimately slowing down supplier certification. This caused a large IT workload, and they didn't really have any automation, and still data could cause improper certification. So Rainforest Alliance, they needed a way that they could automate this data entry process because suppliers weren't getting certified fast enough, and there were some suppliers out there that shouldn't have been certified because the data wasn't where it needed to be. So the solution was Scribe Online's integration platform as a service. Some of the results that they had is within hours they were able to move data between their Salesforce system, their SQL, and their data warehouse. They completely automated their supply chain process, so they were able to take some of the people that were doing the manual data entry, and they were able to put them on other projects where their time was better spent and added more value to the business. Lastly, it improved data quality, visibility, and IT uptime because this is integration in the cloud and there's little downtime. One other story that I'd like to talk about is with the TUI Group. The TUI Group, they're a travel agency with several brands underneath them. They're very large. I think they're over 60,000 employees. So they had all of these brands that use Salesforce, and they also use a reservation system. So Salesforce, they had their salespeople operating in Salesforce, but they also had them operating in this reservation system. And they had just brought on a new marketing system as well. So the challenge was they needed quicker access to lead information, and that was so that they could better help their customers find inventory for different hotels and trips, and as well as quicker access to leads. So if a new lead came in through a form or something like that, so that it was automatically brought into Salesforce so that they could immediately follow up and book the trip. It's so easy to book trips online that if you're not so quick with your follow-up, you can just go book it on another site or something like that. So their solution, they also came to Scribe, and they've now implemented Scribe Online's integration platform as a service. So salespeople now have complete visibility into their booking system. They can now better upsell and craft travel plans for their prospect. So now what they have is these account managers that see trips that the customer did in the past, and they can take those trips and better upsell and say, hey, thought you might be interested in this trip coming up based on what your preferences in the past. It also brought integration of these 7 different brands made easy. Because they had one subscription and they built out one integration, they could easily replicate it to these brands' unique needs. They're all servicing a different niche, but they all had kind of a similar use case scenario. So what does Scribe Online actually look like, and what are some of our value points? We're a very approachable platform. So because of our ease of use and short ramp-up time, you can very, very quickly deploy an integration. It's also affordable from the small business to an enterprise. So if you're a small business but you want to scale up, you can scale as you go. It's very collaborative. So we like to say that we have a unique sharing model. So easily you can invite users to your account and then build integrations together. And we also say it's self-documenting. So as you're building integrations, you're leaving behind tidbits that you can look at and know exactly what the integration is doing. It's very maintainable. And it's very maintainable because we provide a really robust execution history. There's email notifications. There's developer debug, stats. And this is all available via an open API. So if there's another way that you want to report on this, you can do that by plugging into our API. We're also very partner-centric. So right now, I think we have over 1,200 partners globally, and because we're so collaborative, it's very easy to work with those partners and end users. We also have a dedicated team for Salesforce partners and customers, so we know Salesforce integrations extremely well. Just to run you quickly through some architecture, at the top you have our Scribe Online user interface. So this is the layer that Scribe Online users interact with, and it's all built on HTML5 so that you can be a user and access it from your mobile phone anywhere in the world. Beneath that user interface, we have a few different services. You have replication service, so you can automatically replicate your entire Salesforce database to Salesforce to a local or cloud-hosted database. Then you have integration service. So this is where we have a lot of customers building out and building complex integrations. And then on the right, you see agents. So these agents are just a lightweight piece of software. We have a separate deploy model. So these agents are deployed separately from the user interface so that even if there's a problem with the interface, your integrations never actually go down. And all of this is built on top of a REST API, which is powered by the Scribe Online platform. So in summary, we offer fast connectivity. Scribe can be that hub and spoke model. Everything that all the applications that you have in your business can be run through Scribe's iPaaS. So you can connect your ERP, your sales and service, your other data services that you have to your marketing and BI and other services. And you can do this very rapidly. All right. Well, that is all we had for content. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for any questions, any comments, any feedback. Would love to hear it.
Yep. Thank you, Nathan. As he just said, we're open for questions. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, you should find a tab that you can open up and just type in your question there if something comes to mind. We do have a couple of questions that we'll start picking through them here. Looks like we got a couple of minutes to answer at least a couple of questions here. So the first one is, so I have a homegrown application. Can you connect to that application's API?
Yep. Yeah, so we offer a full CDK. So if you have a REST API or a SOAP API, you can go into our development kit and easily build out a connector for that application that plugs into our platform.
Okay, and I should point out too, we have launched recently a developer success portal, we call it, which actually gives some of those tools that people could use for developing a connection to a brand new application that Scribe hasn't seen before. So if you're interested in building those kind of connections, then we can point you to that resource. So just let us know if you're interested in adding connections to Scribe Online. All right, next question. Do you have support for Salesforce Lightning?
Yes, we do have support.
Okay. And one more question in here so far. Can you integrate custom fields and objects with Scribe Online?
Yes. Yep. Any custom object or custom field that's in Salesforce we can support since we're a metadata-driven platform.
Okay. It looks like that's it for questions at the moment. So I'll just start the wrap up here. If you do have a final question, please feel free to send it through. We might be able to squeeze it in. But I just want to thank Nathan for taking us through the content. As he mentioned, and it's shown on the slide there, we have a free trial available that you can take advantage of, and we're happy to get involved and help you plan any integration you would have with Salesforce, whether it's integrating different modules within Salesforce or bringing custom applications, as the question alluded to, or other applications that we've already integrated with. So feel free to reach out to us if you are in the beginning stages, middle stages, or even later stages of planning any kind of Salesforce integration project. We are happy to help you.